Today we're going to be talking about our next project for our classes, which is a meanings kind of exercise. It will take you a couple of weeks to do, at least if you're with us, but there are a series of very small steps that make it a lot easier. If you want to think about it as individual small steps that eventually lead to something kind of like this, only yours will be bigger, about this size, then that might make it a little bit easier to chew. All right. So the purpose of this particular exercise is to practice creating meaning in artwork. We talk about something called visual language a lot in art classes, and visual language is using the things present in an artwork as symbols to represent deeper meanings. For example, if I had a glue bottle in an artwork, it might not just be a glue bottle. It might be something meant to represent things that stick together. You can do the same thing with like playing on words. Birds of a feather flock together. So two birds in a little like flock together. Oops. A flock together might represent you and your friend. Even if they're very different birds, if they're flying together, that can represent friendship. You might have friendship bracelets talking about friendship. You might have specific pieces of jewelry that are meant to represent people in your life, things like that. I have a charm bracelet, and every charm on it is a representation of a trip or an event in my lifetime. If I did a picture of that, it represents a lot of my life. It's not just a pretty bracelet. Now that's a lot to chew on. So we're gonna start with something a little smaller. So for your artwork, the first thing that I want you to do is start thinking about objects that you have, something that is present in your life. Now, this can be something big, but honestly, anything smaller than, say, this jug of water, that's probably gonna do you best because you're gonna be drawing this, and honestly, you want it in front of you. It's just gonna be way easier to draw if it's in front of you than if you try and take a picture. One, because you don't know if your picture lighting is any good, and two, sometimes pictures get fuzzy and distorted and weird. Here's how you're gonna select your object. First off, make it small, make it something that you have on you. I picked something from my keychain that I have with me every day. You want something with a complex shape, not a simple one, because whenever you're drawing this, you're gonna be using silhouettes a lot. And that silhouette that you're using, if it's just a box, no one can tell what it is. Your phone, it's just a box. I don't know if this is a phone. I don't know if this is a business card. I don't know if this is a matchbox. I don't know if this is a switch. Like it could be anything generally box shaped. So you need something a little bit more complex in shape, and something that has some kind of meaning or story for you. When I say a meaning or a story, it needs to represent something to you. For example, mine right here represents cleanliness. Obviously, it's hand sanitizer. But the person who I got this project from, they used a backpack. Now, their backpack was special to them because it was something that a lot of people in their life used. It was originally her sister's. She used it for a while in college. Her son used it for a while, and she was using it whenever she gave me the presentation. I happen to have my hand sanitizer with me every single day. It's not a huge part of my life, but I do associate it with very specific meanings and purposes. So think about stuff that you might have, or something that you have at home that's, kind of small. You could bring it to school, that you have some kind of meaning that you can invoke into. And I want you to really think about that. Take like a few minutes to start thinking about what you might use, because the next thing that you're gonna be doing is you're gonna be writing about it. Some possible talking points, because you want about 5 sentences written about the meaning of this thing or what it means to you. That can be a reflection, it might be a story, it might be a series of observations, but you want about 5 sentences. If you don't know or like have an immediate story to tell, like, oh my goodness, I bought this stuffed animal when I was at my first trip to Disneyland. If you don't have some nice bright story, that's okay. Again, a reflection works just fine. My particular item, I'll read you mine in a minute, but some possible... Darn you, Belle! So, some possible talking points. Tell me, what is the object? Just what is it? Where did you get it? What do you use it for? Do you have a story about this object? And if so, tell me. It doesn't have to be a very involved story, but maybe you have like a funny story where you lost it and got it back or something. I don't know. Does this object have sentimental or emotional value to you? Again, mine isn't particularly sentimental, but the woman I learned this project from, she did have sentimental attachment to that backpack. And what will you do with the object in the future? Basically, you want to write enough that I can tell what your meaning is behind this object. So here's what mine says. Mine says, I have a hand sanitizer with me. It isn't particularly sentimental, but I remember the days when I didn't feel the need to carry one at all, and I miss them. Having an adorable case was merely taste, and now they are near necessity to tell all our little bottles of sanitation apart. Mine sings a jaunty tune. It declares me a winner. I want to feel clean again. So, you can see that that wasn't necessarily a story, but it's my thoughts on my object, kind of gives some emotions that I have attached to that object. It tells me a little bit about the object, but not a whole ton, but about 5 sentences, maybe 6 or 7. I wouldn't go more than 10. But take some time and write down your reflection. Should take about half a sheet of paper. Mine took about half this sheet. It might take about half of a line sheet of paper to write down your thoughts on your object. All right, so here is my little guy. You can see he's not very big, but I do carry him around every day. I'm actually almost out of hand sanitizer in him. And he does, in fact, play a little song. Basically, as soon as I clicked that button and realized it played music, I knew it was mine. Anyway, so the next step to our project, once you've got everything written down, do yourself a favor. Share your object with a neighbor, a classmate, a friend that you have. Tell them what you wrote down, and have them try and guess what your meaning behind this object is. If you think that you're saying that this object is amazing and wonderful, and they come out where they were like, yeah, it exists, then you might need to switch your objects, or you might need to explain yourself better. I'm just saying, that's part of your grade. All right, but our next thing that we're gonna be doing is we're actually gonna be drawing this object. You're actually gonna be drawing the part that is on colorful paper. Now, when I say colorful paper, you have a couple different options. You might have access to some scrapbook paper, something like that, that has patterns or designs on it. Scrapbook paper comes in tons of styles and colors, and honestly, it's usually pretty cheap. It's like 25 cents per one of these, if that. Sometimes you can find them for less. You might even decide to use bells. You might even decide to use different kinds of paper, like a newspaper or a paper out of a book, or like a children's book or something like that. Or you can go the super simplest route and just grab some construction paper. All of them work. They're just not plain paper. That will make your life easier. Is it possible to color some paper yourself? Absolutely, but you're gonna be doing the same on your background, and you might end up with something that looks too similar to your background, so I wouldn't suggest it. What I would suggest is thinking about the emotions related to your project. I didn't get a whole lot of choice in my colors because I had to work with what I had on hand at this workshop. But since you have an option of colors, you have an option of ranges of styles and things, think about it. If your object is supposed to represent happiness and joy, go with a color that represents happiness and joy. If you're going with something that's supposed to represent excitement, bells are my nemesis. Some kind of excitement, go with something that represents excitement. If you want something that represents disgust or envy, disgust and envy. If you are not sure what colors mean emotionally or in artworks, the internet is your friend. Look it up. You will find so many things that will tell you what those what those colors are supposed to mean in artworks. They will have a whole list of things, and they will often tell you what other color schemes might match that as well. So yeah, you want to pick something that represents what you want. In my case, I think I'm actually going to grab this kind of green because I'm just going to use this guy again, and I'm going to show you how I do it. And in my case, I feel unclean most of the time because of COVID. It's not something I'm over yet. I know it's 2024 now. Shut up. You can't control me. And I don't feel very, very good about it, just a little bit sick. So I think green is a pretty good color for that. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna find my bigger sheet of green paper because I need one that's about the size of my working paper. So I have a sheet of paper that's roughly the same size as the paper that I'm gonna be using for my background. And I'm going to start drawing my object. I'm gonna need a pencil for this.